What's this? Another TV to fix? Excuse me. She wants to be in the shot. We're in the studio here, which was the dance and table tennis studio. Now it looks like it's a TV repair studio and play with the dog studio. I've got another TV to have a go at. It came in the Ewaste from a guy I know. He said, I don't remember what the fault was actually, but he said if I can fix it, he'll pay me and he'll take it back because it was a very good TV. It's a Philips. It's probably about 15 years old. I believe these were about a $3,500 TV in their day. I'll put the model in the title, or at least in the description for you. It's extremely heavy, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get up on the table tennis table on my own, but we'll plug it in and see what happens, and if we can't fix it, we'll probably just scrap it out. Okay, first problem, I've got a remote here that was dropped in with it that says Philips. However, I don't think that's for this TV. I think that's for a CD player or something. So anyway, we have a switch on the back of the telly to turn it on. I've got it powered up, or at least I've got the cord powered. There's a switch here. I heard something click in the back. Is anything going to happen? Let's step back a bit. I can't see any standby lights. Oh, there's a little bit of a flash from the back lights, but then they go out. Can't see a standby light at all, so yeah, not sure what's going on there. It might be another backlight problem. I think this is an LCD TV. I don't think it's a plasma. It's very, very heavy, and there doesn't appear to be any life at all. So I guess we better try and lift it up onto the table. We'll take the back off, we'll do an inspection, and maybe see if we've got any voltage anywhere, because if there's no standby light, but then that's odd. I thought we had a bit of a flash from the LEDs, and you won't be able to smell this, but I can. It smells hot. Well, it smells like a burnt hot type smell. Okay, I better unplug it. It might have something more serious than just a dodgy LED. Okay, I managed to lift this up, and it's extremely heavy. I guess if you paid $3,500 for a TV, you'd like it to weigh something, rather than be just a shell of plastic and one little board. So we'll take the stand off, we'll remove all the screws to take the back cover off, and we'll have a look, do a visual inspection, and I can certainly smell something. It has a bit of a burnt hot smell, so not sure what's gone on there. It may have popped capacitors, I don't know. Let's get the rest of these screws out. There's the stand. That's actually quite heavy on its own. Ah, they're actually Torx bits. All right, I'll have to go and get a Torx fitting. Okay, now we have the correct weapon. All right, there's lots of them all around the edge. Ah, that won't fit in there. We shall have to do these top ones manually. And there's a panel here. What's behind this panel? Not sure what that's for. Access for something. Oh boy, I can smell some burnt things in there. All right, our cover should be loose now. Yep, I think we've got all the screws. There we go. Okay, we've certainly got some metal framework, so any wonder it's heavy. Okay, just scanning at the capacitors. Can't see any bulged top ones. Can't see any scorched boards. I'm guessing the problem's going to be on the power supply board. They're big speakers, huge speakers. There's a fuse. Well, their fuses are probably going to be okay. We did see a flash of the backlights, but we didn't see any standby light. I'm not even sure where it is. Yeah, it'd be down here. That board has a smell to it. Yeah, I think something's happened over here. Maybe it's just the dust has been hot, but it actually smells more like something's burnt. All right, I think I'll go and get my meter and we'll power it up again and just see if we've got any voltages coming out of the board. And I'll check the fuses anyway, but I certainly can't see any issues with it. Okay, we'll give it a test. Every time I leave this room and walk back in here after going to get something, I can really smell that burnt sort of electronic smell. I think it's stronger than just things warming up and dust on them. I can't see any other problem. Well, I can't see any problems. I just tested the fuses. They're all fine. That capacitor looks like it may be a little bulged on the top, but I'm not sure. I would have thought there'd be something else. Must be getting hot. So I'm going to plug it in. All I've done is disconnected the wiring ribbons to the main board. I've still got the backlights plugged into the power board, so nothing else has been touched. We'll plug this in here and we should have power. I think we need to maybe turn the main switch on, and nothing's happening at all. But then it could be that the power supply doesn't kick in if it doesn't sense any load. But I'll check some powers. It's got all the voltages written down beside the pins, so I'll see if there's anything there. Okay, let's just check if we've got mains voltage going into the board. I think I can get down beside these wires. 230 volts AC, so that's all good. Okay, now let's check if we've got some output voltages. That will be in DC. And there's 12 volts. Oh, the standby voltage I think is 3.3 volts or 5 volts or something. Let's see if we've got anything there. So we should be able to just ground to the screw. Oh, it looks like the first two are standby. Yeah, nearly 3.3, so that's good. That one's down a bit. And then there's some 12 volt ones down here. No, we've got nothing. No, nothing at all on the 12 volt rails. We have our standby voltage, but we have no main 12 volt line. What's on this one? Just better check it. They print these so fine, I can't read them even with my glasses on. So the top two should be positive 12 volts on this socket as well. I've got nothing. Okay, so the main power supply isn't working. I think I'm going to have to check some capacitors. Some of them could be slightly bulged. That one, every time I glance at it, it looks bulged. That's the first thing to check, I think. I don't know if we're going to have any problems with our MOSFETs or anything. I don't want to waste too much time on it. It is a very old TV. I can certainly check a few capacitors with my ESR meter, so that's something we can do fairly easily. But I'll discharge the capacitors, I'll take the board out, and we will check a few of those back in the workshop and have a look underneath to see if there's any evidence of anything getting hot. But yeah, certainly I think we've got a problem on the power board, and I'm leaning towards a dodgy capacitor. So that's where we'll go from here. I just got all the screws out of here, and I'm wondering why the board won't come off. It's loose both sides, and they've got a plastic standoff clip in the middle here. When you're looking for screws, you don't notice a little bit of plastic. There we go. So the board's off. And whoa, look at this. Any wonder we could smell burnt things? We have a major blowout. That's probably the bottom of a capacitor. And, oh no, actually that's the bottom of that coil. All right, well, that's why the power supply isn't working. We'll take that back to the workshop and we'll investigate that a bit further. We should probably going to have to remove that transformer, whatever it is. Double choke or something. It's on the high voltage side, and I can see the burnt terminal in there now that I know where to look. Hopefully it hasn't done any other damage, and maybe it hasn't even got a problem here. Maybe it was just a dry solder joint. I'm not sure, but I know why it was smelling now. It's quite dusty under here too. I'm not going to touch anything. I've got to short out the capacitors, and we'll have to clean that up and remove the part and have a look. Okay, we're now in the operating theatre. Let's clean up some of this charred remains of what looks like just a solder joint that's exploded. I brushed the board off with a bit of with a little brush, and I've made sure all the capacitors are shorted out. So I'm just using some IPA here to wipe up all the residual, and we'll have a look at exactly what happened. It looks like the copper trace here has just exploded. Let's get this black off so we can see what we're looking at. And I reckon it's probably, unless something's gone wrong with the actual coil itself, or transformer or whatever it is, I think it's more likely to have been a dry solder joint that's perhaps been arcing a bit and it's got particularly hot, and it might have just had one really big flash and it just blew the copper trace to bits. Wow, there's not much of that trace left. We've got the pin from the transformer, some charred board, and that's all that's left of the copper trace there. It's just blown it right off. So we'll get the rest of this spot cleaned up first, I think. Get a toothbrush in here and just clean the board up so we can check all these joins too. There's a fair chance if there's one dry solder joint there's going to be more, and it usually is on things that get fairly hot, like transformers or MOSFETs, because of the expansion when they get hot, and then the contraction and expansion and contraction, and the solder ends up cracking. And once it cracks, you don't have a proper connection. You essentially have resistance, and then it starts to arc, and then eventually it stops connecting at all, but not normally to this extent. So the question, I guess, is how we're going to fix it. Well, we could easily loop a decent piece of wire around that pin and across to the other one. So that will fix that connection, but whether that transformer has an issue, I don't know. Anyway, that looks a bit better. So I don't think I'll worry about unsoldering that transformer actually. What's it look like on the other side? Oh, it's black under there as well. Should we take it off? How many pins were there? We've only got 2 on that side, which is is that the hot part of the board? And then we've got 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm going to resolder them all anyway because there's a chance that they may have cracked or be dry joints. So I think I'll unsolder them all and I'll take the transformer off. We can then probably, well, we can test it anyway, but we'll take it off, clean the board up and have a bit more of an inspection. I've just been scraping around here and I feel like a dentist scraping out decay, because it's the whole section of the board there is all burnt and charred, so there's quite a cavity there. That's real dentist speak, isn't it? Having a cavity. I suspect this has been arcing for quite a long time before it finally gave up the ghost. So, alright, well, we don't really have to unsolder that one, although there is a blob on it to get rid of, but it will fit through the hole. But we'll unsolder all the other ones, and to do that we shall first add some solder to them. And it'll make it easier to remove the solder completely from the hole. Alright, let's grab this transformer from underneath and we'll see if we've got it loose. That side's clear, so yeah, that's going to pull through the hole easily. Wow, they were holding on. It doesn't look like the coil itself has any issues. So we can easily test it, but the terminal looks alright. It's still got its solder on it. But the real issue is the big crater on the board. Now, it shouldn't really matter because, as I said, we can wrap a piece of wire around it. But geez, that's certainly burnt into the board. Any wonder it was smelling. And what's it look like from the top? Well, not as bad, but you can see how big the hole is now. Yep. We've certainly got some decay. Anyway, we'll clean up this transformer. I think it's a transformer. It's got a secondary and a primary. We will just test to make sure we have some sort of ohms reading across the terminals, but I'm sure that's going to be fine. I reckon maybe this blown out terminal was the only issue. We might have a working TV. Okay, let's just see if this transformer's okay. We'll see what sort of resistance we have through here. Oops. Alright, so about 1 ohm. So that's fine. The windings are okay, and that was the terminal that was burned. So I expect this side's going to be fine. 21 and 21. So yeah, the coils all look okay. So there's no issues with that. We'll be able to put that back on the board. I'll just test some capacitors while I've got the board here, but I think this was probably our only issue. So the transformer's back in now, and we can resolder all these connections. And we will clean up the burnt section, and we'll get some fairly heavy wire and make a loop to the other terminal so it can handle reasonable current. I don't know how much it's supposed to take through there, but judging by the crater, there was a fair bit of current. Okay, those terminals are pretty good. I guess we can reflow any others that might look a little bit dodgy. We need to get rid of the remainder of this copper trace. It's not doing any good sitting up like that. I'll get that out of the road. It doesn't really matter. I've scraped all the loose stuff off the board, so it doesn't really matter if that just stays black like that. Let's get a decent piece of wire linking across to that other terminal. Okay, as you can see there, I've made a little S out of an old component lead. So it's going to be copper, it's going to be strong, and we should get a very good solder joint on each end there. And that should be able to handle plenty of current, at least as much as what was going through the old copper trace. Okay, plenty of heat into that. Get a good join. That should be perfectly suitable. So now really all we need to do is take it back to the TV, plug in the mains wires, and see if it fires up without any further catastrophic results. Time to reassemble now. We'll put the board back in. I did go over the back of it fairly thoroughly and resoldered a few joints that could have been dodgy. It's pretty hard to tell, but certainly we've fixed the one that was obviously gone. All right, we can plug it all back in, put some screws in there, and we'll power it up before we connect the main board and just see if we got voltages back on these pins, and hopefully there's no explosions or anything dramatic like that. Okay, we're ready for a test. I was thinking though before that I guess there's a chance that that section of the board actually blew out because something had shorted and it created excessive current draw. There are some fuses on the board, but maybe that section wasn't fused and something caused an overload, and that weakest part was that piece of the trace on the board. If that's the case, it's probably going to happen again, or at least we'll get some sort of fireworks, so hopefully not. But I will stand back when I plug it in. So I'll put the cord into the TV and we'll plug this in here and see what happens. Okay, well, no explosions, that's good. Time for some tests. Now, I don't know where we can have this so you can see the meter. Maybe right up the front. That's good. Okay, can I still get to where I need to test? Let's see if we've got our standby. Yes, we have. Now, do we have our 12 volt line here? Oh, that was interesting. We have some voltage, but it's not 12 volts. And it's dropping. Well, we didn't have any voltage there before, so that's promising. But I don't know why it's doing that. but possibly because the power supply doesn't sense that it's driving anything, there's no load. Maybe we need to plug the main board in. Anyway, we've got some improvement. Yeah, I don't know where else I can test, and I don't really understand how these power supplies provide power, because sometimes I know they shut down if they sense that something isn't right. So I'll unplug it again, and we shall plug in our main board. This one also goes to the main board. So now we'll plug it back in and see what happens. Oh, we have a relay click. Now I'm not sure if that was the TV turning on or not. Ah, I can see backlights. That's actually really promising. Someone said in the last video that would we be able to maybe turn the main lights off to see the backlights? We'll try that. I'm not sure how it'll show up on the camera. Now you can see the backlights through the little dots. Excellent, it looks like the TV is going to be working. We have a little green LED over on the main board. There is life in the old girl. Now just for interest's sake, let's see if we can get a reading. Oh, it's a bit hard with these wires in here. I was going to see if we can actually get our 12 volts with everything up and running. I don't think I can get the lead in there. Oh, there we go. We did have it. There we go. We have 12 volts, 12.3 volts. So it seems like the power supply doesn't supply the voltage until it knows that it's connected. And when we did plug the main board in, we had a relay click. So perhaps the standby voltage provides something that goes to the main board and then comes back and operates a relay, and without that connection, without these wires connected, it doesn't work. That's interesting to note for future testing, but it looks like it's operational. Backlights are still on. I think I'm going to put the back cover on. I'm confident that we might be able to actually get this TV working. Well, I think it is working. Well, that's got the big heavy TV off the table. Let's plug it in and see what happens with the screen. Okay, I think I heard some noises. Oh, here we go. No video signal. Well, it looks like it's going to work. That's sensational, but I don't have a remote for it to get anything else on the screen. What do we got here? Menu, program channel. Oh, that's the channels. Okay, let's go menu. All right, well, I guess I can go and get a DVD player and plug it in, but it looks like we're going. Fantastic. Well, look at that, guys. I actually got a DVD to play and it's playing beautifully. That's a pretty good screen, actually. It's probably a bit noisy, but the sound works. The TV appears to be in excellent condition. What a fantastic result. Very happy with that. So there we go, guys. Another TV fixed. I better be careful. I might get good at this. Coco didn't end up helping. Pretty happy with how it's gone. Strange problem. Still not exactly sure why it happened. Perhaps it was just a bad solder joint, but anyway, it's fixed. I don't think it'll happen again. Problem solved. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next video. Bye for now.